How you doing?
Thank you very much. I find it quite moving what you do.
Thank you very much.
And fortunately, there's many subtitles I don't know, so to me they're all your words, whatever you say about them. The truth is that something you wrote? You got, was it sourced from somewhere or was it sourced from yourself?
Well, I suppose to go back to the 5 challenge, I think my work is a bit of a paradox quite often. I mean, it is sourced from myself, and it actually often amazes me because I find it really difficult to write about myself directly. So if I sat down to try and write a poem about my mental health issue, then I really do struggle to be very direct about it. And yet, when I utilise somebody else's song titles, then it just seems to be a little bit easier. So I had written a Depeche Mode poem years ago when I started this, but I actually went into it with the idea, when I scanned the titles again, that I was going to write something specifically about mental health issues. And when I saw the title, The Truth Is, it kind of fell into place after that.
Do you actually think about yourself in terms of mental health? I mean, it seems like a label stuck on from the outside, whereas, you know, inside ourselves. Do you think about yourself like that?
That's actually a great question, because I don't anymore, but there was a time when I did. I think that when you're given that diagnosis, or you come to that realisation yourself, which I have friends that it's happened to, that label does become you in lots of ways, and unfortunately society does view people through those labels. And it's not just with mental health. I think probably the most difficult label you can carry is criminal, and how difficult it is to leave that behind you. I don't think of myself in those terms anymore. I've seen lots of interesting stuff and read lots of interesting stuff in the last couple of years where that is actually changing. So they did an amazing TV programme on Channel 4 a few years ago. They took 5 people who'd all been diagnosed with some form of mental health. So, one had been bipolar, one was depression, one was bulimia, and they had them interviewed by a panel of 3 business owners, and they told them that 4 of them had a mental health issue, and they interviewed the 5, and actually in the process they actually forgot that they had mental health issues. And it was a girl actually who had the most severe mental health issues. She was offered 2 of the 3 jobs. So I think you can get beyond it. I think it's difficult, but I think you have to get beyond it for yourself first. And thankfully I don't think of myself in those terms anymore. It's a part of me, but there's lots of other parts of me as well.
But what is a part of you? What is why is it a problem the way you are?
Oh no, I'm not saying it's a problem the way I am. I'm just saying it's a part of me. I don't want to go into my life story, but my depression is derived from a childhood that was full of trauma, and trauma is a big word, and I want to get into that. So for me, I'm not talking for anybody else, I carry some of that trauma with me now. In the past I've carried massive amounts of it, and I've managed to let go a lot of it. But that part of me still exists, and that part of me manifests in a lack of self-esteem, which is now far less than it used to be. And so, for example, tonight, I've actually really enjoyed standing up and doing my stuff, but there are nights or days where I'm going to do something and that part of me triggers, and it becomes just a little bit more difficult, and I become very self-judgmental in my head. So it's a part of me, and I think you have to, for me, I think acknowledging that part of me exists and being aware of it allows me then to utilise it or understand it and work with it, But it's definitely a part of me, and I don't think denying it is a healthy thing either, but that's just for me.
Thank you very much for your openness. When you went to the prison as a mental health advocate, you did writing workshops, or can you tell something about that? Or
yeah. So I actually went with Carl McLally and Sean Dennehy, and it was just an opportunity. I have a friend he's a deputy governor of a prison, and he was at something I did, and he asked could we do, and we basically did a performance, but we kind of went at it from the point of view, here's our poetry and this is what we do, but then we talked in between about how, well, I can talk for myself, I can't really talk for the other 2, but the general conversations about how creativity had helped us to deal with mental health challenges, and obviously lots of guys in prison are dealing with that, and we got quite a large audience actually, and we got some nice interaction with them as well, So I suppose it's a bit of a cod in some ways. We didn't go in saying we're here as mental health advocates, we came in to say we're poets, but it was really about, and that's what they asked us specifically to do as well,
Your poetry film, I saw it a couple of times on YouTube. It's really nice. Can you tell us something about that? Because I think there were lots of poets in it. Actually, it looks like a very elaborate production, and you've won prizes with it as well, I think.
Yeah, well, no, I don't think I've won any prize. It's been shortlisted and longlisted and a couple of things. Right. Yeah. Look, it was a really interesting process. You know, had somebody said to me 18 months ago, you'll make a poetry film, I'd have said, what are you talking about? Maybe a little bit more than 18 months ago. No. But then again, if somebody said to me 5 years ago, you'll be reading poetry and performing poetry, I thought you were mad. The process was quite simple. I rewrote the Bowie poem, having been at the first Fortnight Festival. I rewrote it specifically as a mental health commentary piece, but I also wrote it as a tribute to Bowie, because he had just passed away. It was the same time he died on the 11th of January. I saw the play on the 15th of January. And then it's that creative process of it. I've been showing poetry films, I've been watching quite a few of them, and then my head just thought, wouldn't it be lovely if we could create a film that in some way reflected, and this was the foundation we wrote it on, that was similar in style to David Bowie's Ashes to Ashes movie, but you know, somehow reflected the content of the poem about mental health. And it's interesting that you say it looks elaborate, yeah. And a few people have said that to me. This was my input, right? I took the poem, I drew, and I mean a doodle, a rough sketch of every line in the poem, every single line in the poem. And I said everything I had to a friend of mine, Paddy O'Shea, who's a wonderful, wonderful filmmaker. And he came back to me and said, there's way too much. We met, we took out some of the images, and I said, I like that one, I like that one. He sourced the locations, which was Garryvaux Beach, and I can't think of the Kilkellan Head or something. We went down there, we spent the day down there filming. Loads of poets, you know, you don't have money, you don't have a budget, ring people up, well, no, to Garryvaux for the day, next Saturday, it's a long weekend, the weather's glorious, do you want to come, we're going to make a film. We dressed them up, we made it up as we went along. Paddy made it up. And we did that on the Saturday long weekend. The Monday of the long weekend, everyone came to my house. Paddy and his friend Rupert did all that lighting, that they did amazing work actually. We dressed up, had a load of drinks, had a great day. Paddy shot hours and hours of footage. I went down to Garryvaux, where he lives. About a week later, spent 12 hours, from 8 in the morning to 8 at night, sitting in the studio going through the images, saying I like that, I like that, I like that, I like that. And Paddy did the rest. He did the rest, yeah. And it looks amazing. And actually when he sent me the draft, I changed one thing. I just sent it back to him. It was just, he did an amazing job,
You're a talented man all around. I mean, you don't just do that, but you also do festivals. You set up Solstice, the Winter Warmer thing. Is that you?
Well, I'm involved in it, but it's not me. The Winter Warmer is Jesus. Don't anybody tell Paul Casey somebody tried to take the Winter Warmer away from him. No, look, my personality, and for me, one of the absolute joys of that journey through depression, which was an extraordinarily difficult depression, was what it allowed me to understand who I am. And a number of years ago, I actually said to somebody, I quite like who I am. And I was 48. It was the first time in my life I'd ever said that, because it was the first time in my life I'd ever felt it. But my personality is I like being busy. I like getting things done. I would be, to use maybe a technical term, a problem solver. If something's there and I think it can be improved, I want to improve it. I'm what's called an active learner. That is an actual technical term. And what that means is if you show me a card trick now and you show me how to do it, I'm showing everybody I know over the next 3 weeks how to do the card trick. The minute I know how to do something, I want to do it. So that was challenging for a long time, but now I actually really enjoy it. So the Solstice Sounds was, I met Shane one day, rang him, arranged a meeting, sat down, and I said to him, I have a whole load of ideas, and there was like, 20 of them on the page. And we actually did 2 of them. That was one, and another one was t-shirts like this. The Winter Warmer, I'm always happy to help out. My own humble opinion is that O'Vale is just one of the most phenomenal things this city, Cork, and certainly the country has ever seen. The fact that it's still, like you guys, totally underfunded is almost criminal. And I'm happy just to contribute in some small way to that. But yeah, I'm active and I do lots of things. I have to say, no, I'm a little bit uncomfortable with the term talented, but that's that dark side of me coming to the fore again.
Last subject. I think your poetry could be commercially quite viable. I mean, you really make something new out of things that are already commercial in a way and are known to many people because many people know the Pink Floyd song titles, I'm sure. So, have you ever put your mind to publishing that, or on a huge scale, like, you know, become the first million-selling poet in Ireland? And, yeah.
What I do know is that if you want to be a million-selling poet, the place to go to is South Korea. And I'm not making that up. So there was an Australian guy whose name won't come to me, who was working in South Korea teaching poetry. He was the guest at O'Vale a couple of years ago. And we went down to the one from Wildfall night and I was chatting to him. And it is not unusual in South Korea, Afric Noah is making notes here, what, for a poet to sell 40,000 and above of a poetry collection. And on 2 occasions in South Korea, a poetry collection has sold over 1 million copies. So, if you want to sell on a commercial scale, that's the place to go. In response to your question, I mean, you know that I've done some work with recording these with music with Malcolm Obcar. I'd love to do more of that. Malcolm's really busy with his own stuff. He's been away for a while. I'd love to do that. We do have tentative plans to do an EP or maybe a full LP of the stuff, and I'd like to do that. But I always think that, you know, if you take someone like Ed Sheeran or you take Fleetwood Mac, who I refer to earlier, or the Eagles, or you take any successful novelist or actually, you know, successful actor, the decision that somebody is going to be the biggest star on the planet has actually got nothing to do with you. That's my opinion. That's something out there. I mean, when J.K. Rowling was published by Bloomsday first, they printed 7,000 copies of the first Harry Potter book, and 5 years later, when it was a huge success, said, we always knew it would be massive. When Oasis signed to Creation, Alan McGee 5 years later said, we always knew they were going to be massive. No, he didn't. Because nobody knows that. So, that's just my opinion. My opinion is that, for me, the next step is the same step. It's to do the work as best I can, as often as I can, and try to, you know, to get over the things that I have within me that prevent me from doing that as often as I possibly can.
Nobody can say it better. Thank you very much.